I base my decisions on, you know, is this going to be something that's going to hurt me or others?
It sounds to me like a method of prioritization.
Yeah, you can. Prioritization is a good way of explaining it. It's analytical. It's not just somebody told me not to do that, so I'm not going to do it, which is totally fine because, you know, children today or people today, certainly through the ages, you know, cultures or societies, communities decide, okay, so it's not good to do this, it's not good to do that because they see the consequences of something and they'll teach that, and that's totally fine. But there's also the aspect of when I look at something, can I come up with that decision that is going to be the greatest good for the greatest number of people, you know, not just for my own self-interest.
Okay, but do you balance your own self-interest in that equation?
Yeah, well, it has to be because, well, sometimes, actually sometimes not. You know, I just look at it and it is my own decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something I decide on. And there is a concept in Scientology that what is true for you is something that is what you have observed. And if you lose that, then you lose everything. Okay. Scientology was never meant to be, you know, that it's not a dictatorial thing. Okay, it has to be from your own viewpoint.
Now,
if you lose that, then you've lost who you are.
Right. Now, yesterday you said to me that there was truth, and then there was more like an absolute truth.
Well, no. What I was trying to say is that when you mentioned that, you know, you want to see both sides. What I was saying is, yeah, there's both sides, but then there's the truth. You know, I think it's either true or it's not true.
Right.
You can look at the side of the murderer. Did he kill the person?
Mm-hmm.
And he'll say, no, I didn't. You know, he attacked me, and it was self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other side of he killed the person. The person is dead, and he has the gun or the knife in his hand.
And maybe I wasn't clear too, because when I said I want to hear both sides, what I meant to say is I want both sides to put forward the best case that they can make, and then let the other people decide and see them, you know, perform at their best.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Sure.
Totally understand that. So, anyway, we are back to Scientology and what what I found out about Scientology and what it's done for me. And also for the purposes of clarification as to what Scientology is. And I know we have a fantastic website called www.scientology.org, which answers, you know, questions about Scientology, what it is, the basic principles, the campaigns that we're involved in, and so forth. But just for the purposes of this, in case somebody tunes in or, you know, to your YouTube.
Would you like me to put the link in the sidebar, actually, for people?
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Okay, I'll do that.
But just as a point of clarification, Scientology means study of knowledge. It comes from skio and logos. Skio is Latin knowledge, and logos is Greek study of. So it's a study of knowledge or knowing how to know. And it's a religion because it deals with the spiritual being, who you are a spiritual being, and you have a body and you have a mind. But you yourself are in control, or not, of the body and the mind, and can be and should be. It delineates certain principles of the spiritual being, and therefore you can resolve problems relating to survival.
I see.
Yeah.
And Scientologists believe in Thetans too, is that correct?
Well, again, it isn't, you are a Thetan.
You are a Thetan.
The Thetan is a spiritual being. It's just another word for the spiritual being to differentiate it from what people think a soul is, or they think you have one. But you yourself are a spiritual being. You are a Thetan, and it comes from the Greek word theta, which is life source.
Would you define that as the spirit being the state of consciousness?
Yes, it could be defined as that. Being aware of being aware.
I see.
So the mind is mental image pictures. It's a series of mental image pictures. It's what the Thetan does to record the physical universe and uses it to resolve problems relating to the physical universe and survival in the physical universe.
Okay.
And the body is just this, what you see, and it's a carbon, you know, it's all the, whatever it's made up of, that does die, but the spirit never dies.
I see.
So that's a little bit of that. So Scientology deals with the spiritual being, the Satan. Dianetics, which is the book that Mr. Hubbard, Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, is the book that Mr. Hubbard published in 1950. And that is the technology of the mind. It tells you what the mind is, how to resolve problems relating to the mind, and so forth.
So if I understand this correctly, what you're saying is that the brain, I think Hubbard described the brain as being sort of mush, but the mind as being this intangible spirit.
Yeah, well, the mind is, it is a series of mental image pictures. For example, if you were to close your eyes and think of something, like think of a cat,
right,
you would get a picture of a cat.
Mm-hmm.
That's your mind. If you were to think of what you had for breakfast, you would get a picture. You might even get the smell of it. You might even get the taste of it. You might even get the sound of what was happening when you were sitting down to eat breakfast or running around eating breakfast. That is the mind. The Satan answers the question, who is looking at the mind?
So it's like the mind is the tool, but the Satan is the will.
Exactly.
I see. I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. That was very good. That helped me clarify that point.
Good.
Let's see. There was a.
I guess I didn't answer your question on
Oh
psychology.
yes, the psychology. So yeah. So tell me. In Scientology's opinion, what is the destructive force behind psychiatry?
Okay. Well, the thing about it is that psychiatry is supposed to mean the treatment of the psyche, which is the spirit, but it does not treat the spirit. What it does is it says that you are chemicals, and therefore you can be treated like chemicals. And if you rearrange the chemicals or you change them or switch them around, then that will give you the treatment, right? But that goes against our understanding of the spiritual being, and things like drugs, lobotomies, surgeries, shock treatment. While they deal with the body and the brain, they destroy or alter the spiritual being, or they damage the spiritual being, because the treatment of the spiritual being should not be alienated from religion. If you give somebody drugs, what you're doing is you're altering them physically and mentally. It's the same as if you go out there, and I'm talking now about those psychiatric drugs. I'm not talking about medical drugs that deal with the body. Mm-hmm. And if you need insulin, you can take a test, and it'll show that you're low on insulin and you need it. If your blood pressure is low, you can take a test, and it'll show that. It is an objective test. You can see it. And so you might need blood pressure medication. But if you're talking about psychiatric problems, or which are really spiritual problems, then the diagnosis becomes subjected, and it's the opinion of someone. And there is no objective test to determine that diagnosis. It's all subjective.
I just, an interesting thought just came to mind, and I wondered if I could just get your opinion on it.
Sure.
During certain times of the year, you've heard of the Chinooks, right? The warm winds that blow into the valleys, right? I think it's during the spring. But apparently, during the Chinooks, these strong winds that are filled with, I forget whether it's positive or negative ions, quite profoundly affects some people's moods, and in fact, in certain areas, the homicide rate goes up. I wondered if you had anything that you might be able to contribute to that, or maybe help to explain it.
I don't know enough about it to have an opinion on it.